Wrong one. Okay, critical thinking classroom. We are here on day. What does that say? I don't even know. I can't even read. Day 5. I can read. I can't. I do in my classes. Thanks for always reminding me with your blue green chairs. Don't forget your glasses. That's nice. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. You are here in the classroom on a special Saturday. Why? Because I was kind of feeling kind of bad last week. I'm just in dire straits with my finances because I can't get a job. Although I'm going to apply for a job this afternoon. I went there and I stopped as I went to the bank to try and get my finances in order without weeping. Not successful. Okay, but I am getting some wonderful sunshine on my legs here in Michigan and enjoying that scorching hot sun, at least a little bit, here in our classroom. And before I came on, I also wanted to get a few things a little bit organized for you, which they are not fully organized for you. But that's because, as you know, I really do. I have to say, I allow the Holy Spirit to kind of lead me in a direction, and then I kind of piece things together. I knew I had to get on for you because I didn't want to miss our day 57 in the critical thinking classroom, in particular because I love this information. The information I'm giving you, I happen to love, and it's going to give you a great foundation for philosophical discussions that you want to have, or that you want to have with me in our philosophical classroom that we have on, which I also didn't have. I didn't have that on Thursday, but you know what? I'm not doing that one. So we did philosophical classroom. We know comes and goes. It just depends, right? That kind of depends. Although we're supposed to have it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it doesn't really come and go. But I have ignored that classroom on more than one occasion. I think 2 occasions. 2. I think that was Thursday was the second time. Anyway, I'm sure that's what you're all here for, is to hear about my schedule. My schedule. But I know you're not. So, let's get started. I want to show you what I ended up doing was I ended up pulling up quite a few different PowerPoints that I've had that I taught my classes at OU, which I have no access to my intellectual property, and who even knows who that mediator is over there, since they're not OU, or the mediator or the lawyers are not responding to any of my requests for information. So I'm sure they're thinking that I'm going to go down before, figuratively speaking, that I'm going to go down before next Friday. And I don't know why you would think that. You just keep putting all of your money on what I've already told you is the wrong thing, and you just keep doing it. Keep doubling down, doubling down, doubling down, doubling down. That's the reason why I'm going to have all the data, because none of you people deserve any of that data. And this is really where I'm looking back at my beautiful, oh my gosh, look at this. And I want to show my classroom, my early bird classroom. I'm looking at all the scientific abnormalities around here that just don't match nature. And so early bird classroom, what we talk about in early bird classroom that I think is so important is that we talk about, from a high school perspective, the mechanics behind the world. The physical world, physics. We talk, that would be physical world, that'd be physics, right? The mechanics behind the physical world, that's physics. Now, we don't really get into physics here because I truly am not a physics expert. Oh my gosh, did I have a heck of a time in that physics class. But it was an honors level physics class, and it was all math. Strike number 1, strike number 2. Honors level physics. I can handle honors levels classes, just not honors level physics. But early birds, just for you. But since it's on the critical thinking classroom, it obviously isn't just for you. Early birds, don't be so self-centered. I want to show you, look at these. Look at the blossoms on these. So as they're blossoming, right? Oh, here, let's get that off of there. So look at how they're blossoming there. Look at that. See how it's blossoming? And then to go way back there, you can see one way back there. I'll even put my finger on it. Is it that one that's way back there? No, it's behind that one. I'm not sure if you could see it. I think I'm in the way. I don't know. But these are, look at these. So these are ready to blossom by our early bird classroom. These will all be blossoming white. Unless, of course, I have somebody here who is destroying. And these are the things that we're looking for, the mechanism by which we see things occur here in nature. Let me get this up a little bit while I'm talking. The mechanism by which we see things occur in nature. It has to look natural. It has to be natural. These plants here I've talked about in the early bird classroom, and there's a reason why I'm going into this, all right? These plants here that I talked about in the early bird classroom here, these are turning long before fall, and there's no reason for it. We've had a very heavy rain and cool summer. We've had a relatively cool summer. Today it's scorching, but we've had a relatively cool summer. You can tell by my lawn, right? I haven't watered my lawn in a couple weeks, and look at how green my lawn is. That's of course because I fired those SOBs who were doing my lawn before, right? But you can see here in the grass here, in front of these plants closest to my porch, that we basically have areas there. I'm going to try and lean this down as best I can, like that. Right here in front of it, all of that's dead. Now this, I think it's myrtle. I think it is. I'm not sure. I can't remember right now, but I think it is. Spreads very easily. Why isn't it spread over here to the house? That's because that's been sprayed with poison. That's the reason why these plants had feet in them, and we're pushing them over, as well as this plant right here. You can clearly see that this was uprooted. This plant right here, you can clearly see was uprooted. So people have been coming behind these plants and destroying them. We want to know if something happens this way in nature or not. So we want to know the mechanism by which certain things occur. Does it occur naturally, or is there foul play? And that's what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting in all of our classes that we use some observation and we find out what is nature and what is nurture. We hope it's nurture, but it's environment. And when it's not a nurturing environment, it can be a destructive environment. But the fact of the matter is what we're looking at is we're looking at nature, which is DNA. Don't let a truck commercial let you think that a truck has DNA. I know it's just a play on words. I know it's a play on word. What is it, RAM or whatever it is, your HDNA. But trucks don't have DNA. In a world where our children aren't educated on things like science, don't act like a truck has DNA. It doesn't. They're talking about the HD, and they added the DNA to be clever, right? But in this world where we don't know the differences between Disneyland and reality, we cannot be letting people think that trucks have DNA. They do not have DNA. The only thing that has DNA are living things. Living things have DNA, all right? They were calling the other day on a YouTube video, they were calling animals insects, in fact, where I was looking at gross, disgusting things that insects did for our spiritual class. They were calling them everyone. Like the insects were people. Like there's no difference between insects and me. The person who put that video out, let me tell you something. There's no difference between insects and you. But there's a great big difference between insects and me. Oh my gosh, they devour their mates. I devour my mates, but only in that really good way. What did she just say? What did she? Did she just say what I think she just said? It's a high school class. You could teach me a thing or two. Not that that is what I'm rooting for. Not that that's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the opposite. So these plants are tipped over, and so what we're talking about is the mechanism. There are mechanisms that are hard to understand. There are mechanisms that we haven't been taught, but that we have learned or have knowledge of for a very long time. You have to get used to looking for the mechanism. You are a scientist. Get used to looking for the mechanism. We know mechanisms we can't see. We know that because the cell phone works and we can't see how the cell phone works. But there's a mechanism by which that cell phone works that can be explained. And scientists are trying to take the knowledge out of your hands. But I see a lot of places that are government sponsored that are trying to give you the information. Pay attention to what government tries to do for the people. Business, they are in charge of the media, and they're telling you government doesn't do for the people over and over and over again. Government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. So if your government isn't working for you, then you need to vote somebody else in that is getting government to work for you. And if government isn't working for you and you're voting in people who are immoral, who are criminal, who break the law in order to get what they want, but excuse it because everyone else is doing it, or excuses it because that's what smart people do. They break the law to get what they want. Those are the people, if you voted those people in, then you voted immoral people in, and they will stomp on your head and face before they give you your just due. I know that. Watch me. Watch me. You know that. I need to get a book here because just because my hard drive, my nice soft Toshiba hard drive, I don't know what you're good for other than softness. But you are actually, I actually am using you, and I'm backing up all my files because I can't do a backup on you on my Mac. Just another way that they don't have to explain themselves or give you the information or follow regulations that tell them what you're supposed to put, what real stuff is in food, not use all those big words. They don't follow any of the regulations. Regulations are for the normal person, the peasant. The peasant. Oh, and also what I did say before when my voice was off is that this is also being done to women because if women aren't staying with their man, then they will put you into poverty. And that's what's happening. What they're saying is they're forcing me to choose a man to get myself out of this poverty. And how individuals, especially men, have the power to do that to a woman goes to show you why they're incels, why they are absolutely incels. Yeah, and that goes for you, Greg Newsom, who's not really dead, but who is truly an incel. No matter what you got going on physically right now, you're an incel. Nice job, Pam, with your morals. Nice job, Carolyn, with yours. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Carolyn's on the right side of all this. She could be. I've got to go get a book so I can lift up my beautifully soft Toshiba hard drive, which is, like I said, I'm using it. But give me a sec. I will put up there for you. What am I going to put up there? I don't know because I can't see. No, I do know what I'm putting up there. I just can't see it. Is the jeans PowerPoint that we had up there. So let me just do it right from here. Well, I can't find it. Hold on. There we go. I got it. No, I don't. Where is that? Oh, I get what I did. Oh, isn't that nice? Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I did something in technology, and then I tried to find it, and it went right over my head. What I did was too technologically advanced for me to recall that quickly. So I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Don't criticize me. I was just a little slow at it. I'm sorry, I'm slow. I'm sorry, I'm slow. I think. Oh, there it is. That's the reason why. That's the reason why. Look at what I did. I did it. I did it. Okay, so this is one of the PowerPoints that we're going to be looking at, which we have been looking at. If you recall from last Wednesday's class, right? So this is from my personality psychology foundations and findings from Marianne Mercerendino. And this, again, most of the books that I have, I believe that Eugenia from Cornerstone of Freedom was probably Eugene, probably written by Eugene, and that's why it was a mess. And he just wanted to throw another woman underneath the bus, as if women have to have men. Not those kind of men. We enjoy men. We love men. Women love men. You know, women who are heterosexual love men. You know, whatever. I love men. I'll just say that. I don't know who loves men. I love men. But not corrupt men. Not at all. Not at all. Not one single bit. Do I like a corrupt man? The stories that women like bad boys, simply not true. Okay, so what we talked about on Wednesday, which I think that we did a really clear job of, was genotypes and phenotypes. On Wednesday, we talked about that. Now, we're going to get into genetic information, but what I want to do is, actually, I think we're going to get into genetic information right now. Let me see. What this slide here is demonstrating for you, I'm going to talk about it, and then we're going to go a little bit backwards to try and understand what we're looking at and try and understand it at a deeper level. All right. So what we're looking at here is the in what we call an interaction. What an interaction is it is where two things affect an outcome. That's an interaction. It's that simple. Two things are affecting an outcome. All right? So when we are studying genes, it's not simply good enough to know that you have a gene. Remember what we said when we were talking about phenotypes, is that we were talking about that gene may be turned on and it may not be turned on, right? And in fact, some things may literally be turned off, never to be turned on again. Remember, we talked about that when we were talking about cats who were denied vision, right? So they were actually, from newborns, were brought up in a colorless environment, and they never were able to code color. And what that means also is this, is that there is a period which we call a critical period, and that critical period is the time when that gene works the best, when it's turned on during this time. Let's take a look at, for example, we were talking about that. I think it's got to be 5 weeks. It can't be 5 months. It's got to be 5 weeks that the genetic information for male comes on board. We are all, genetically speaking, born female. Although, if we have the Y gene, male characteristics start coming on board in utero, in the womb for the woman, right? In utero around week number 5. Now I'm going to have to verify that again because as of last Wednesday I took a break. I did. I kind of took a break from the information. Not fully, but enough. Yeah, so I did. And so I have to look that up. And I did bring up that chart for you, which I actually, believe it or not, have here as well. So, I think I'm going to escape out of that. I'm surprised that's still up there. Maybe up there for another reason. And now I'm going to come into... Give me just a sec. As I said, I wasn't, if you got it, I'm not sure if it was turned off or not. My volume was turned off. But I'm a little bit, I wanted to get on, but I'm not as organized as I would like to be. I'm getting these PowerPoints more organized, but a lot of times what ends up happening is I get the information, I let the information come to me at a, whatever rate the information really wants to come to me. And, no, this is not the one I wanted. This is the one I wanted. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. No. Oh, come on. There it is. Okay. So... there's just a couple PowerPoints I saw here, but like I said, I saw them right before I got on, and so trying to find them right in front of you is a little more challenging. Yeah, I knew you weren't here. Oh my gosh. Grab it. 1, 6. Oh, I know what's the problem. I think I know what the problem is. There we go. That's the one I wanted. Oh my gosh. We were finishing off. Oh, that's what we were finishing off, weren't we? We were finishing off our... test our knowledge, weren't we? Let me show you what I called up to here to show you. How is it that I saw all this information and now I can't find it? It's got to be it too. Oh, there it is. All right. Let me see if I can remember how to do this now. Oh, that window capture, that's what it is. I just get really proud when I do that. I really, really do. All right, let me show you what I want to show you. Oh, shoot. That's not what I wanted. It is, but it's not. I gotta set up the slideshow, and then now it'll be small. Watch. I know, you don't care. I do. All right, I've got that, but I don't know why I'm not getting my slideshow on here, which is really what I want, not that. So I think I'm going to. Oh my gosh, look at, I'm just sweating. I can't even believe how I'm sweating. I'm sorry. It's not the source I wanted. Let's add a source. There we go. Oh, sometimes this is not that easy. I don't know why. I gotta grab this though. There we go. Okay. Oh my gosh, I totally worked up a sweat getting that up there for you. I hope you appreciate it. That's technology at work right there. Geez, try and figure something out. Okay. Now, what I wanted to show you here is, I gotta make it bigger for me, is what I gotta do. There we go. Oh, this works out wonderfully if I can get organized enough. So you can see here that what happens in the period of week 1. So these are weeks. So week 1, the embryo begins to split. So what ends up happening is when life begins, we know that the sperm comes together with the egg. I likely probably have more of a picture of that. And this basically is it. What this does is the egg gets fertilized and then travels down the fallopian tube to then go to the uterus where it ends up growing and getting its nutrients, right? So you can see that in the first 2 weeks, we have what is called the beginning of life. The egg gets fertilized. A single egg gets fertilized by the sperm. I have a picture of that somewhere. right here. I know. I'm having fun, though. I don't know if you are. Okay, this one is there. I'm so happy about that kind of stuff. I am. Now, look at what I'm going to show you. Right there is the ovum, engulfed in sperm. Let me show you that picture nice and large. The ovum is the cell in the woman's body. So we have got the cell that produces life, which is called the ovum, and they have the cell that males have the cell that produces life, and that's called the sperm. So the ovum is the largest cell in the woman's body. So it's the largest cell in any body. And the sperm is the smallest cell in any body. How about that? So we have an ovum and we have a sperm. Let's take a look at that ovum completely engulfed in the sperm. This is from, I think it's from PBS. I do have all of my references down below there for all of these. Note, what you want to note as I blow this up, you want to note how large the ovum is, which is a cell that you can't even see in your body, compared to how small the sperm is engulfing that ovum. Look at, now that's what you want to put your eyeballs on. All right? And you can see we have cells that are what are called non-sex chromosomes, autosomes, and then we have sex chromosomes, and that's what we're talking about here. Our sex chromosomes or our sex gametes. See all that? That looks like spider's webs around that. So the round ball is the ovum. And what looks like spider webs all over it, yep, you guessed it, folks, that is the sperm all over that ovum. And that's what they're trained to do. Just sit over there and just like, I'm going to take more of that. I am going to, and exactly what they do is penetrate it. They penetrate the cell wall is what they do. And that's what happens when an egg is fertilized by a sperm. When a female egg is fertilized by a sperm, what ends up happening is that female egg gets penetrated by the sperm. Let's look at that next picture there, shall we? So there you see ovum is the female egg, which is also called a germ cell, the largest cell of the human body. Sperm is male fertilization. When it's fertilized, the germ cell is the smallest cell in the body. So gametes, sex cells, are called germ cells. I don't know why they're called germ cells. Seems like they had something in mind, right? You're getting a germ from somebody is what you're getting. There is a picture of the sperm as it begins to penetrate the ovum. Look at this. This is really an amazing kind of, this is an amazing physical feat. Miracle. So there you can see the head of the sperm is blue there, and notice how it is trying to penetrate, and we do have pictures of this. So if you watch, I think this is, yeah, The Miracle of Life by PBS is what I have, is where I got most of this from. I'm almost sure of it. I do again have the links there though. So the ovum is engulfed in the sperm, and then in the next picture you can see the sperm is trying to penetrate that ovum. And here is where it is information from the sperm is all in the head of that sperm. That's where all the DNA information, and look at how cozy that sperm is getting in the lining of the wall of the ovum. That's exactly where it wants to be. And this is how it begins to mix their DNA. We're going to talk about exactly what DNA is, but this is how the woman's egg gets fertilized by the man. And you can see how they could easily change DNA around by fertilizing certain eggs with certain sperm, right? And be able to do some nature nurture experiments on here. And if nobody's the wiser, they can continue with all of their unethical studies, right? And what ends up happening, the product of the sperm penetrating the ovum, the female egg, is what's called a zygote. A zygote is the baby. There's the baby. It is a single-celled organism that occurs when the sperm penetrates the female cell, the ovum, and we end up with life. The zygote, remember, is a single-celled organism. The zygote is a single-celled organism. And this is kind of good to know, because what you did was you brought the DNA from the sperm together with the DNA from the ovum, the female cell, and when you brought those two cells together, the two cells became one. How about that? How about that for being scripturally sound? The two will become one, and that's how that occurs. The two cells, the sperm and the ovum, come together to create a single-celled organism, and that is called the zygote. Now, what happens after? Let me see here. They become one cell. That was that picture here. Where was that? What? Oh, 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 oh. I'm looking for that same darn picture that I showed you, and now I can't find it. It's not there. It's got to be here, right? The zygote there, do I still have that up there? No. The zygote is the new organism, and there you can see pt.2 is where I got most of that information from. And what ends up happening then is the cell, the single cell, begins to split and split again. So let's look at that from this perspective. I think it is in this perspective. Told you we're going to do DNA. But it doesn't look like it's here. I don't understand how I showed you that picture and now I can't find it. It's got to be here. So here you begin to see the process that occurs after that looks good enough, right? Yeah, it does. the zygote splits. So here in number, on day 1, on day 1, during ovulation, you can see, so you can see the picture that says day 1 there. Let me blow that up so I could see it too. In ovulation, the ovary releases an egg cell into the fallopian tube. That's where we saw that very first picture, right? The very first picture here of the fallopian tube. Let's move that over. Oops, that's not the way to move it over. So, I'm not quite sure how I got that so big. And it's not so big over here. I'm not quite sure. But you can see there, so the ovulated egg, day 0, what happens? Fertilization, and then a zygote. And then in day 1, that zygote splits into 2 cells, and then 4 cells, and then 8 cells, and continues to multiply. And it gets strength. That cell ends up getting more and more strength as well as it multiplies. Let's move that over like this. As it multiplies, that cell gets more and more strength. Why? Because it is growing until it moves down into, you can see the uterine wall, where it is taken care of and getting, and the cell gets nutrients from the uterus and is fed. All right, so let's make this smaller now. What ends up happening is what's called then after that, it's called differentiation. Differentiation. What is differentiation? That is where the cells, we have all different kinds of cells in our bodies, and our stem cells produce those different kinds of cells. So some are part of the ectoderm, which forms the outer skin. Some are part of the mesoderm, which forms muscles and the skeleton of our bodies. And some form endoderms, which form our vital organs. What are those? Cell differentiation. We go from 2 cells to 4 cells to 6 cells to 8 cells and continue to multiply, but those cells become different cells. Our brain cells look different than our skin cells do. And you could see your skin cells because our skin cells actually are very large. They are our very first protective barrier. You can see how those individual skin cells here, look at that one right there. That circle there, right there. That's a skin cell. Skin cells are very large. You can see skin cells, but you can't see neurons. You can't see your blood cells, right? What happens? How do we get all of those different cells in our body? We get all of those different cells in our body through what is called differentiation. And that's what the purple color is. The ectoderm, outer layer of skin, the mesoderm, the red, and the endoderm forms the vital organs, the yellow. I do believe that those were the colors that were representing those areas of the body. But the idea here is now we are getting new cells. So as we are forming in a woman's womb, we are cells are dividing, and they're dividing, and they're dividing, and they're dividing. We're not going to talk about cell division right now, all right? But we are going to talk about cell division so that you know what's happening when the cell divides. That is called meiosis and mitosis is what happens. So cell division. Where do I have that? Oh, it's on the other one. Here, meiosis. Do I have mitosis there first? Yes. So mitosis is the simple splitting of any cell. This is what happens. That occurs is that we have in step A there, what we have is we've got chromatids, one side of a chromosome. Chromosome has got pairs of gene information, one from the mother and one from the father. So what ends up happening is a chromatid then splits into, the DNA splits into chromosomes. That's what you have in number 2 there. So in B there. So chromosomes in B there. And then what happens is that the cell divides and chromatids go on one side and go on the other side, matching chromatids. Those chromosomes, these chromosomes in B have matching chromatids. They split and then they start again with A. We've got 2 cells now with chromatids. They will form into a chromosome. Those chromosomes will split into chromatids in one cell and the other. Now they both have the same DNA information, right? Both of those cells have split the chromosome into 2 chromatids. Now chromatids here have the same information as chromatids here. What happens? We then form a chromosome, splitting or duplicating the chromatid, right? We duplicate the chromatid, then we split those chromatids into 2 cells. We've got 2 cells filled with chromatids. They duplicate to make a chromosome. That's mitosis. That's how we duplicate any cell other than the sex cells. Sex cells are special, right? So that's where we're going to leave it, though, with our splitting of the cells. That is mitosis. Meiosis is when we split the sex cells, and you could see that there's a lot more going on there. Why? Because we have to transfer DNA information from one parent to the other. That happens in the sex cell. And then the other cells duplicate that DNA information from the sex cells, getting the sex cell information as well. So we can see here we've got a zygote, we've got separate chromatids, and even some of these are, look at this, even some of them are non-functioning. We've got non-functioning problematic chromatids and chromosomes there, non-functioning chromosomes, but 1 functioning, 3 non-functioning and 1 functioning. You can see why we would have problems with our DNA, right? And why we would have mutations in our DNA. But mutations, they said, are good. They're not good. That's why we have mutants, right? Okay, all right. And you can see here that mitosis, the splitting of the cells, begins at the beginning of life. At conception, we begin splitting cells. When does meiosis occur? Puberty. When we begin duplicating our sex cells, and this might be a reason why, well, it is a reason why we have such hormonal changes, number 1, but also why we get emotional. That's our sex drive now reproducing and becoming mature in our bodies. But as you can see, what ends up happening is that those changes occur in life at different times, right? At different times. So that's where I was here with this picture here, right? So we can see there in the period of the zygote where the one cell, the zygote, becomes 2 cells and then multiplies over and over again. And the third picture there is multiplying the DNA. We can see there then in week 2, it begins to implant itself, right? An organism there is not usually susceptible to teratogens. What are teratogens? Teratogens are environmentally toxic material. So our babies, when it gets implanted into the womb, our uterus lining, our babies are really quite secure until until the blastocyst breaks away. And when the blastocyst breaks away, it's open to environmental toxins. And that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. But you can see there that the central nervous system comes on board at week 3. At week 4, eyes, ears, arms, and legs. Week 5, brain, eyes, cells, right? But here was where I said that I thought it was going to tell me when our male, when we can determine that it's a male, and I do believe that that's at 5 weeks. It has to be before our ultrasound, right? Which is usually around 12 weeks is optimal time to be able to determine, and then that's where you determine typically the sex of the child if that's what you want. I never did. I didn't learn the sex of my 2 boys in advance. I wanted to love them no matter what and not have to worry about anything, so I didn't. Oh, I don't have that picture up there anymore. Okay, so you can see the development of the fetus all the way through 38 weeks, right? And usually, typically, around full gestation is around 40 weeks. You can also see periods of susceptibility to structural defects like your central nervous system, or susceptibility to functional defects like your brain or your heart, right? External genitalia, there we go. External genitalia comes on board at around week 8. So that's when we are able to better determine the sex of a child. Okay. These are really interesting slides here that I have for you, which is showing you what happens when you introduce what we're calling teratogens, which are toxins. Toxins can be environmental toxins. Toxins are environmental. So when we have problems like premature birth, low birth weight, or other physical problems, that is due to the prenatal environment, which includes legal and illegal drugs. We all know we weren't, raised under a rock. We all know problems with legal drugs like nicotine and alcohol. So sudden infant death syndrome is associated with nicotine and alcohol use. Fetal alcohol syndrome and other developmental effects such as lower IQ scores, poor school performance, all of these, what they're saying is these outcomes can be due to a poor, toxic prenatal environment. Lower IQ scores, poor school performance, higher risk for dependency problems later in life. And when many of our environmental diseases and sicknesses are coming from our food, obesity, diabetes, even things like inflammation, right? Coming from our food, the long-term effects are listed right here. Lower IQ scores, poor school performance, and higher risk for dependency problems. Those are alcohol dependency, right? Drug dependency problems later on. And here we can see here that the studies, and these were long-term studies, but this is incredible how much the IQ of an infant can be reduced by drinking alcohol. 1 ounce of alcohol daily can reduce a child at IQ at 8 months of age will be around 116, which is above average. 1 to 2 drinks drops IQ down to 114. 2 to 3 ounces of alcohol drops IQ down to 109. And then down to 101, and now we're getting below average for individuals. Little to no alcohol, 2% with defects. So those defects are probably caused by other environmental factors. 2 ounces of daily, which is 4 drinks a day, 12% of infants have some kind of defect. Heavy drinking, 10 drinks a day, 50 to 74%. You are almost inevitably going to have physical consequences, including neurological consequences for a parent who's a heavy drinker. We also know heroin, cocaine, and other drugs have other problems, addictive offspring, right? And so they have to go through often They have to go through withdrawals for heavy users. Newborns are related to the extent of the mother's addiction. Symptoms are, of course they are. Of course they are. Okay, so environmental toxins. These are the things that the businesses are using and regulating in unethical ways. Radiation, lead, mercury. How about mercury? Mercury is in our vaccines, although it's been reduced. We now have an increase in the number of vaccines recommended. In the 70s, where there was 4 when I was little. So mercury is lower in the vaccine. It still exists. It exists there because it is a preservative for the vaccine. One of the reasons why the COVID vaccine had to be kept cold, the very first one had to be kept cold, was because they didn't want to use mercury as a preservative in there. So just again, what we're talking about is we want to find the reasons for things. When I talk about the mechanism, the reason that these plants are dying here, that's what we're talking about. When I say mechanism, what I mean is, what is the reason? There's a reason for it. There's a reason I can use my cell phone and get somebody over in Thailand. There's a reason for it, and we're trying to find out the reasons. There's a reason why we have an increase like we have of autism. 1 in 2, and now we're even higher than 1 in 2 individuals are considered autistic. There's a reason for that. It may be just labeling, right? It may be a narrative, right? It may be that anyone who's got a brain that's creative is told to stop being creative. Maybe that's what this is all about. But nevertheless, we have a higher rate of 1 in 2 individuals who are now getting autism. Who's supposed to run our country when 50% of the individuals are autistic? Who's supposed to run our country? Or are we just supposed to be used to now the bar is so low anyway? We have criminals and we have, mentally defective adults, right? No adulting. 1 star on adulting. Yeah, you know what we don't need? We don't need you here running the country or even in this country, Mr. No Adulting. That's the reason why we have so many problems here, because everyone is all about no adulting. You know who I want running businesses? Adults. Do you want to know who I want running the IRS? Adults. Do you want to know who I want running the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission? Adults. Do you want to know who I want running the construction? Adults. That's why I want adults running this world. And if you aren't an adult, you're a sheep. You just want to follow. That's what you are. So you've been screaming, no sheeples, no sheeples. But if you have a 1 star on your t-shirt for adulting, we don't need you as an adult at all. We don't need you at all. I'm not about eliminating people. Just get out of this country, because we don't need you. We need adults running this country. It's the reason why this country is in shambles. Exposure to vehicle exhaust fumes, PCBs, contaminated industrial waste, electrical transformers can be harmful. Avoid X-rays. Male exposed to environmental toxins or drink can cause birth defects in offspring, just like females can. Medical interventions such as therapeutic disasters, DES, which is a synthetic hormone. I think that was what they were giving individuals for. Thalidomide was. I think I can't see it because it's right there. That's the reason why. Can't see my notes that I want to have on this, so I'm not sure what this DES is, other than a synthetic hormone. But it was for therapy. I'm not quite sure what the therapy was. And then other tranquilizers that can also have negative effects on the infant in utero, in the womb, right? In your uterus, in utero. Other drugs such as prescription tranquilizers or anticonvulsants, anticonvulsants. And I do believe that bipolar medication and maybe even some anxiety medication may be anticonvulsant medication. So look out for that too, because that carries heavy toxins. And you see all the information about don't take if you're pregnant. Well, if don't take if you're pregnant, that also means don't take if you're trying to become pregnant. Because when do you know when you're pregnant? Maybe long after you've been taking certain medications. So many medications, they say don't take if you're pregnant. That means don't take if you're trying to get pregnant either. Okay, let's see here. So all of these things, age of the mother, diet, emotional distress, physical disorders like mumps, rubella, blood type, hypertension, and then we've got all of those factors which are sexually transmitted diseases, STDs. I don't know. They changed that. They changed that phrase. I don't know why they changed that phrase. Sexually transmitted viruses, STVs. I don't know what they are anymore. Who cares? Keep the name straight so we all know what you're talking about. STDs. So those really seem to have a giant effect on offspring, the STDs. Now, I want to see what else I had on here. I'm going to escape on that. And then let me look at this. This is what I want. This is where I started from, right? So when we are talking about there we go. There we go. Okay. When we are talking about interactions, what we're talking about is the interaction between what happens when we have a certain DNA that goes together with a particular environment. And this is what is most critical about what we're learning here. So, when we look at this slide here, what we have is we've got DNA. That's the genotype. So we've got three different types of genotypes there. Genotype 1, genotype 2, and genotype 3. Basically, what these genes are is they are the difference between individuals who have no predisposition towards depression. So that could be genotype 2, no predisposition towards depression. Genotype 1 in blue, I'm not exactly sure. Which one is which there? All I know is the three different genotypes are no predisposition. Number 2 is a predisposition by one parent. So genes from one parent that suggest a predisposition towards depression. And then genotype 3 and the yellow there, that is where both parents have a predisposition to depression. But what we have there in the bottom there, right over here, what do we have there on the horizontal axis? It says low rejection, high rejection. What that is the nurturing environment from the mother. Low rejection from the mother or high rejection from the mother. And we do that by measuring attachment styles. We can see if there's high or low rejection of the infant by the mother. And so we see here that when the mother has low rejection, to the left there, when mother has low rejection, it didn't matter what your gene was, did it? It didn't matter whether you had no predisposition, whether you had some predisposition, or whether you were completely predisposed to depression. It didn't matter if your environment had a nurturing mother. But if your environment didn't have a nurturing mother, your DNA didn't make any difference unless You are predisposed to depression by both parents. That's an interaction where I need both DNA and a rejecting environment in order for me to experience high levels of depression. So that's what we're measuring there on the y axis there. The y axis says proportion of that group that's depressed. The largest proportion of individuals who were depressed were those individuals who had an interaction both between their DNA and their environment. That is what is key here to our message. It's the reason why, as a psychologist, I am so overly concerned with our environments and so underly concerned with our DNA. There's not a lot we can do with our DNA, right? There's not a lot we can do with it. We can pretend to have different color eyes, but my eyes are still brown. We haven't figured out a way to change my eye color as far as changing my DNA. The DNA is difficult to change, and so are behaviors and attitudes. They're not easy, but they can be changed. But they can be changed. If you find a nurturing environment, even as an adult, we said you can change your attachment styles. Why am I so heavily focused on what is going out here with big ag? What is going out here with pharmaceutical companies? What is going on here with depression and anxiety? What is going on here with businesses putting the screws to people in general, but in particular, what is going on here with right-wing fascists who are putting the screws to women? They want things their way. They want women to adore them and obey them without them having a single ounce of integrity, a single reason for someone to desire them. If you want somebody to desire you, then be desirable. It's that easy. DJT, you want somebody to desire you, then be desirable. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I am here with healthy mind, body, spirit in the classroom because I'm the teacher. This has been day 57 of the Critical Thinking Classroom. Thanks for joining me.